Hey there, everyone, and welcome to Twin Movies. I'm Ben Phelps, and I'm joined by my regular buddy and banter,
Gabe Dowrick. Hello, Ben.
Gabe Dowrick Esquire. Is there a particular name you want to use this week?
What do you mean? I don't do pseudonyms, do I? Maybe Gabe Dowrick is a pseudonym.
You've explored Sir Gabe Dowrick.
Oh, have I?
You've explored Master Gabe Dowrick, the master of your domain.
Yeah.
You've explored Gabe Dowrick Esquire.
All right.
Is there any other particular moniker you'd like to adopt this episode?
Yeah. Okay. Just do your little intro again and I've got a name.
Okay. And we're doing a not take two, which is kind of like doing a take two, but you actually hear the take one. So, hey there, everyone. Yada, 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 yada. Regular banter and buddy.
Ben Phelps.
Look at you. Look at you.
That's right.
Very clever. Very clever.
Very good.
Okay, you know what's clever?
Yes.
Every year, Hollywood releases two movies based on the same idea. Very clever. So we ask the big question, which movie did it better? Today we'll be reviewing two twin movies about a swashbuckling adventurer and a damsel out of her depth who find themselves in a love-hate relationship as they search for a valuable stone. It's Romancing the Stone versus Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Let the swashbuckling begin.
Very good.
So, very clever.
Very good.
So as usual, let's kick off this episode with an overview of these twin movies and a flashback to our first encounter with them. On the 30th of March, 1984, Romancing the Stone was released. Here's the synopsis from the Internet Movie Database. A mousy? Yeah, apparently mousy. A mousy romance novelist sets out for Colombia to ransom her kidnapped sister and soon finds herself in the middle of a dangerous adventure hunting for treasure with a mercenary rogue.
Wow, that makes it sound like she's the one who's holding her sister to ransom.
Yeah, that's a terrible synopsis, isn't it?
Sets off to Colombia to ransom her kidnapped sister. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's probably grammatically right. Like, if your sister is kidnapped, you ransom her, I guess. But I don't know, that seems weird.
I've never actually read or heard the use of ransom as a verb in that way.
Yeah, anyway, who knows?
Anywho, Gabe, did you originally catch Romancing the Stone at the age of 1 when it was released at the cinema? And what was that experience in your nappy like?
You know what's weird? This is one of those movies where when I was a kid, I would see it in the video store all the time and I would just never rent it. I don't know, there was just something about it that just screamed to me, nah. And so, weirdly, I watched this movie for the first time for this podcast. And you know me, Ben, I've seen all kinds of garbage crap twice. It seems odd to me that I'd never seen this. I mean, it ticks a lot of boxes. Most notably, Danny DeVito is in it, whomst I love. But yeah, very strange. And I still haven't seen the sequel. So, this was a fresh watch for me.
Okay, that really amazes me because this has so many tick the gay boxes. It has Michael Douglas.
What? Okay, sure. Yep.
When I think of Michael Douglas striding away from the bed in Basic Instinct, just doing that huge butt flex, Gabe would really appreciate this and go, yep, I'm here for this.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, you're correct, but my love for Basic Instinct is more the film as a whole. It's not Michael Douglas. I mean, I don't just love Michael Douglas. I'm not oh, boy, do I love... what's an average Michael Douglas programmer? King of California.
Wonder Boys.
Hey! No, hey, man, that's a great movie.
I was just trying to throw you a bone.
Okay, A Perfect Murder.
Good example. Okay.
Go on. What else do I love about Romancing the Stone that should have made it a must-watch for me?
Look, I don't want to, jump the gun and step on best poster, but
okay,
this has a very evocative classic 80s poster. It's in that vein of Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones, and the whole Star Wars trilogy, where it's that, what would you call it, that naturalistic painted effect?
Yeah, isn't there an artist who's very famous for those posters? What's his name?
Yeah, we'll look it up because he actually has that style. And when they did the new trilogy of Star Wars, so The Force Awakens was the first one out of the gate, they did try to recreate that. In fact, actually, I think Lucas actually might have tried to recreate it as well for the prequels, as I recall. I could be wrong, but I think he did.
Yeah, not Drew. Drew Struzan? Drew Struzan. I think that's his name.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. That's the guy. That's the guy.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's interesting. So I myself, this falls in that category of a film that I never had seen until this podcast. So I watched it exclusively for the recording. But another classic example of film that was playing pretty much on loop on commercial free-to-air television on a Friday night, maybe at a stretch on a Saturday night. But I feel like I had seen this film, but I hadn't seen this film. It's that Mandela effect where I've somehow in my brain merged this film and the sequel, which only came out a year later, which is quite remarkable, like a really fast turnaround, Romancing the Stone. No, sorry.
Jewel of the Nile?
Jewel of the Nile. And they just blend in. So I kind of conflated both of those movies together. And I'd always imagined the film from the poster, but I can't recall any scene in this film that resembles the poster at all. The poster looks like it's something like that, that film, George of the Jungle, the live adaptation or the live action version?
Do I?
With Brendan Fraser?
Oh, yeah.
The poster resembles the vibe of that movie.
You're saying there's no bit in this film where Michael Douglas swings on a vine?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. He does it not quite. Anywho, I myself had caught it in dribs and drabs. I can't recall if it was the Stone version or the Nile version, but I didn't see it until this podcast. So I think we're both kind of babes in the woods in that regard. However, I know that when it came to only a month or two later, on the 23rd of May, 1984, you'll have some sort of connection here because Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was released. And here's its synopsis from IMDb. In 1935, Indiana Jones arrives in India, still part of the British Empire, and is asked to find a mystical stone. He then stumbles upon a secret cult committing enslavement and human sacrifices in the catacombs of an ancient palace. So, Gabe, talk me through when and how you first watched Temple of the Doom. Of the Doom? Temple of Doom.
Temple of the Doom. I saw this, well, the first time I saw this, I only saw probably the first, 20 minutes of it. I was just a little kid, eager to watch perhaps probably my first Indiana Jones movie. And it got up to the part where the guy pulls the heart out of the other guy, and I was terrified, and I ran out of the room, and my dad mercilessly hacked shit on me for the next 30 years.
Wait, what? Hang on. How old were you? And what age were you for your dad to hang shit on you?
Well, I must have been like 6 or 7, I suppose. I mean, it's hard to remember the specifics of that sort of age.
Unless you're like so scarred, it's just indelible in your memory.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't recall a lot of my, my childhood, but I do recall this. So it is a fairly indelible memory. Thanks, Dad. So yeah, I mean, I saw it when I was a little kid, and then I was scared, and then I must have watched the rest of it at some point because I've seen this movie a trillion times. Although I think the first Indiana Jones movie I watched all of was probably The Last Crusade, which I got as a VHS tie-in through McDonald's. Then I probably watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then finally, summoning the courage, probably at 28 years old, I finally came back and rewatched Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Okay.
Then I called my dad and I said, "Dad, fuck you."
Okay, there's so much to unpack here. I'm
Okay, all right.
speechless. Okay, so hang on. I can't go any further until we discuss this free VHS from McDonald's. So walk me through this.
Well, I mean, I must have bought a Happy Meal and they gave me a free VHS of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And I just watched it heaps.
Yeah, but back then, like a VHS was pretty expensive. I mean, it was cheaper than Beta, but to get a free video for a $4.95 meal, that's a remarkable deal.
I think so. I mean, maybe I'm misremembering maybe it came from Sizzler or something, a more upmarket family restaurant. Who knows? But I definitely had a VHS that I got as part of some sort of tie-in, merchandising tie-in from some sort of store, and it was Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, which is not the movie we're here to talk about. The movie we're here to talk about is Temple of Doom and the scarring effect that it had on me as a child.
No, I'll get back to that. But
okay, great.
Can I just follow this rabbit hole? Because this is curious to me.
Okay.
There is something remarkable about that time in our lives. There's an age gap between us, but we're still in that era where hard copies were something to be treasured, right? You had tangible merchandise and you had hard copy media, VHS, then DVD, then Blu-ray. And you don't get that in the same way. Like, my kids have no experience of that kind of connection to film. So we have an expression in our family, or an acronym, I should say, called LPOCs. LPOC. Little pieces of crap. So the stuff you get when you, say, spend more than $100 at a grocery store, or you go to get a Happy Meal at KFC, McDonald's, Hungry Jack's, etc. LPOCs. And LPOCs are basically the sort of things that can't be recycled, end up in the bin. Some sort of turtle wears it as a hat. They're not the sort of things that are particularly useful in any way, and they're just disposable pieces of junk. Mm-hmm. And that's disappointing. But when you get something like a VHS like that, you can really watch that. It's actually got used to it. It's got value.
Yeah.
And my kids experience The Simpsons and Pixar and Marvel and Star Wars all through Disney Plus. So there's no connection with the cover, of a VHS, or the cover of a DVD, or if, back in the day of CDs, the cover of a CD. Like, there's no association with artwork in the same way, which I find really sad because when I think of those films, when I think of Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom or Romancing the Stone, I think of the artwork.
Totally.
And what's bizarre is that you and I had never seen that Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner film at all, but we recalled the artwork from the video store. And kids these days just don't get that. There's no connection that you might have seen the movie, but at least you feel some sort of connection or understanding as to the tone or the genre, which I think is a real shame.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, I used to hide weed in my VHS cases. So kids will miss out on the opportunity to hide drugs in the DVD cases, which, is always handy. So I don't know where your kids are going to hide their drugs when they get older, Ben.
Well, we have 3 Bibles in the house, so possibly there.
Oh, nice.
Actually, that's sorry. The first Bible is reserved for a gun. The second Bible is reserved for those, those needle shots you see in Pulp Fiction, the adrenaline shot. But potentially you could carve out the third Bible. So, there's a window there. Or you get one of those particularly mega fat iPhone covers that has space and pockets on the other side.
Jeez, how much weed are your kids planning on smoking? Anyway, hey, I did find a newspaper article.
How many credit cards are they carrying?
That's true. I found a newspaper article from 1991. Admittedly, this is in America, about McDonald's and Paramount Home Video teaming to sell Indiana Jones videos through Macca's. So I didn't make this up. It was definitely Macca's. But I think you had to buy the videos. So here they must have been like $6 or something on top of your Happy Meal.
So $6 back then is probably like, I guess now
$37? No, I don't know.
$15 maybe.
I don't know. And that's American. Anyway, my point is it was definitely Macca's. But there you go.
Okie doke. Well, let me talk you through my experience. Okay, this is amazing. I had never seen this movie before recording this podcast.
What?
What did you say?
Really?
And I had it for exactly the same reason that you were terrified.
Holy shit. I don't want to sound like I'm gatekeeping, Ben, but you shouldn't be doing any sort of film podcast if you hadn't seen Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I mean, I know people don't like it when people say that type of thing on things like Twitter, like, not everyone should have seen it, but seriously, man, fuck. Like, come on. This is like a mandatory.
Yeah, Gabe, don't own me. Don't own me, man.
Yeah, mate, owned. But you as an adult man was still scared.
So no, that wasn't the reason why. So I avoided it because I grew up in a place, have streets or a crescent or a parkway or an avenue. I grew up in a place which is a cul-de-sac. So we had a little street that had a dead end. And we all played in the cul-de-sac where it goes up like a street and then kind of like turns into like a circle shape. So it resembles from Google Earth like an eye with the dot and the stick connected. And we'd play in there and we'd play outside and we'd play pretending we're like Star Wars people on land speeders, or we'd pretend we're perhaps Indiana Jones. However, the kids across the road who are only 6 months to a year older, they started reading Fangoria and they were getting into like heavy shit when they were around year 4, year 5, year 6, which for our international listeners, yeah.
Sound like cool kids.
It's around the ages of 10 to 12. And they watched Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And all they could talk about was a scene, spoiler alert, where the antagonist throws his hand into the guy's chest and pulls out his beating heart. And they described it so viscerally that I was probably actually more traumatized, because I think often the imagination, your own imagination, the audience's imagination is just more powerful, more evocative than actually seeing the visual depiction. And so I was just traumatized by my overactive imagination and thought I'm never going to see this. So cut to, we're at that kind of at that VHS Beta Wars period around 1988, 89, 90. And I saw Indiana Jones because that had a beta, and there were certain videos that you could only get on beta, and you could get the first Indiana Jones film, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I saw that. Years later, I saw with my grandfather, probably 2 or 3 times, the one with Sean Connery, The Last Crusade. So forever and ever, I'd always seen 1 and 3 of the trilogy, but never the middle one. And so, yeah, for the first time I saw it exclusively for this podcast. And it was so weird to see this movie, having seen every other version, to see this one, to fill that gap.
Wow.
And we'll get to my review.
Wow, that's weird and interesting. I mean, I never knew this about you, Ben. This changes everything.
Yeah, I know. I'm totally like recalibrating your reality.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, this is like the Matrix. It's like the Matrix. This is like the bit where Neo goes, deja vu. He like sees a second cat. Everything changes.
It's all changed. All right. Well, there you go.
All right. So before we go any further, we should perhaps just jump into a quick little comparison of these twin movies and find out how we got here, that these two films came out at the same time. So let's start with Romance in the Stone. So it was actually an original film. So this is a fascinating story. It was written by a female screenwriter called Diane Thomas. I wouldn't ordinarily say female screenwriter, but we're back in an era where not as many female screenwriters had the opportunity to actually write something like a romance adventure. It was very much a male domain. And she wrote this sort of like as it was her first published screenplay. And we're at a point in time where Zemeckis has like just struck out. His 2 previous films have just been like totally unsuccessful. He needs to basically helm by the way, segue. Don't you love how we always say helm now? You used to direct, now you helm. Anyway.
Yeah, right.
He had to direct a stable, secure hit. Otherwise, he was dead and buried. And if you want to ever get Back to the Future, which was our previous podcast episode, Back to the Future versus Peggy Sue Got Married, to get that up, he had to do something that would make some cash. So he signed on this and thought, yep, this seems pretty straightforward. I can execute on this film just neat, clean, safe and tidy. So the screenwriter, Diane Thomas, wrote the screenplay in 79, and Zemeckis came on board, sees it and says, yep, that's great. He was developing Cocoon at the same time, but then essentially 20th Century Fox didn't like his take, and they were pretty apprehensive, having seen the bombs of I Want to Hold Your Hand and Use Cars. So basically they said, you know what, we're pulling Cocoon from you, you're out. So Zemeckis goes, okay, I need something else, and he came on board. And that's basically how this film went ahead. But interestingly, this was always about Diane Thomas's take from a female perspective, a female gaze on someone who dreams of an adventure and then becomes the adventure. So it was basically her writing something that was fictional, but also partly autobiographical.
Yeah, right. There you go. Very interesting.
Yeah. Indiana Jones, look, we all know the story there. It was a sequel. It was going to be something that was just trying to ride the coattails. I think what's interesting about this film is that they leaned in hard to the protagonist. The first film, the character isn't in the name, but here they've gone, yep, we value this guy. He is the brand. Let's make the film about him. What happened is that there was going to be this idea of a trilogy, and George Lucas was always a key architect. And there was this idea that perhaps they might share directing responsibilities or something like that. But basically, as we've seen, as history has told us, George Lucas kind of consistently shirked directing films after Star Wars until The Phantom Menace in the Star Wars prequels. So essentially, he became a key author of the idea, of the screenplay, or whatever, but handed over responsibilities to Spielberg to do the actual directing. You know, Gabe, it kind of reminds me of what could have been with the old, what's that, Tintin? You know Tintin?
The film Tintin or the books?
No, the adaptation. Remember that whole thing that was going to be this whole idea of a trilogy?
Oh yeah, like,
and it was exactly this. Remember, it was exactly the same pitch.
Like Spielberg was going to do one, and then Peter Jackson was going to do one, and who else was going to do one? Like
I think it was
Joe Cornish. I don't know, someone.
Yeah, or they'd circle back to Spielberg. But
Edgar Wright. I don't know. Is Robert Zemeckis?
Do you recall the pitch for that trilogy was exactly the same, right? As Lucas,
right? Okay.
Like one will just sort of swap roles and away it goes. And I sort of wonder why that is. Like, why does Spielberg get involved in those relationships where he comes on board with these other creatives and other directors that kind of just revert to being just authors on the page as writers, but ultimately he kind of ends up directing, those stories. Same with Jurassic Park, similar sort of thing. He eventually handed off the reins to Joe Johnston, I think, for Jurassic Park 3. Mm-hmm. But there was also talk beforehand that perhaps he'd hand off the reins for the sequel, but didn't. It's interesting. I guess many other directors just said, you know what? You're the god. You do this really, really well. Just stick with it.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess they're doing another indie movie, and who's doing that? Mangold.
Yes, exactly. And that's quite surprising that basically Spielberg has, handed the reins to someone else after like 4 movies. That's a big deal. But I guess it's not dissimilar to Lucas doing the same things by selling the whole franchise and handing off the 7th film onwards to J.J. Abrams and co. So, yeah, it happens. Anywho, in relation to Temple of Doom, Lucas was keen to avoid the use of Nazis second time round. And originally, actually, Spielberg wanted to bring back Marion Ravenwood, which I think is interesting because she actually returns in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but ultimately it was decided to bring in a new character. We'll get to this in a review, but I think this is quite interesting because there's a different parallel universe where they bring her back and she remains a constant force, which I think is really a missed opportunity. Having said that, outside the production of the film, obviously Spielberg got together with Kate Capshaw romantically, so, there's a whole different positive, so to speak, coming out of this. But, yeah, I've always been bugged by that idea, having never seen this film until recently. I was bugged by the idea of replacing the character of Marion because I just thought she was so good in the first film and had so much autonomy and stood alone. Anywho.
And they really went in a different direction for the character with this one, didn't they? In terms of you saying Marion has autonomy and is, a bit of a badass. Wow, the choice they made with Willie. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anywho, films came together. It was basically Lucas coming together, doing lots of transcripts as they used to do back in the day. The first draft was written in 6 weeks. And then basically after doing E.T., Spielberg said, yep, let's go ahead. I don't want to lose the opportunity of Harrison Ford not committing, and we've got to move really fast. So they did. And we did a second draft weeks after that. and they were shooting pretty shortly afterwards.
Wow.
So that is the evolution of this film. It's pretty much in that era of saying, here's Jaws, here's Star Wars, first blockbusters of all time. What comes next? Sequel blockbusters, which means move fast, keep the cast, maintain the momentum.
Sick.
All right, let's get to the reviews. Okay, so let's start with Romancing the Stone. Gabe, did you like it? What didn't float your boat? And was it a good execution of a common premise that it shares with Temple of Doom?
Did I like it? It was all right. What's kind of odd about this movie is that I must have watched this. How long ago did I watch it? I don't know, a week or two ago. And goddamn, I had to read a synopsis of this thing to remind myself what happened in the second half because I just had zero recollection. I mean, I don't know if it's me getting older and my brain just falling apart, you know, the holes I've drilled in it due to alcohol abuse. I don't know, Ben. I don't know. But, I just couldn't recall what happened in the second half of this movie except for the word, what is it, Cartenia? Is that what they're... Cartanegia? I can't even remember the word that kept bouncing around in my head.
This film is so unmemorable for me, which we'll get to.
Yeah, like...
I can't even recall that phrase.
I thought the first half of first quarter was real entertaining, like the setup and her getting to Columbia and then meeting that rascal Jack Colton, played by Michael Douglas. But then, I don't know, the back half of it really doesn't capitalize on the sort of the setup, and it's just really flat and forgettable. I mean, Kathleen Turner, incredible personality back then. Not to say she doesn't have an incredible personality now, but really great screen presence. Michael Douglas, what a rapscallion. Danny DeVito, but I don't know. I had to reread the synopsis, Ben, to remind myself what even happened in the movie, which is not a great sign of a film sticking with you.
Yeah, totally. I think what's fascinating about this film, and I did mention this earlier, but I'll throw it in now, is that Michael Douglas was a producer first. He basically hadn't built a career as an actor. He was living as a flatmate with Danny DeVito.
Really?
And these guys,
Ha! That's awesome.
Doesn't it feel like a movie like Twins?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, Danny DeVito was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest that Michael Douglas won a producing Oscar for.
See, what's fascinating is that they're living as flatmates together, and Douglas, with all his good looks and the legacy of his father, Kirk Douglas, a famous actor, is worrying about his career at the time. And Danny DeVito, who's like 5'2", balding, not a leading man in terms of looks, is like, yeah, Michael, cry me a river, you'll be okay. So sharing a little apartment in New York, Douglas gets a break. I think it was like a theatre gig for about a year. But being a good guy, keeps paying rent back at the apartment so Danny DeVito isn't turfed out. So he's very loyal. He buys the script. He pays something insane like $250,000 or something for this script, which is unheard of. So we're talking, 1980s dollars, early 80s dollars. Everyone thinks he's insane, but he thinks, I need to try and progress my career and take a chance. He then realizes that he's probably the best person for this role and that it gives him a chance to produce a good movie but also star in it. But at this point, he is a producer. He's known as a producer. He's not an actor. And then he basically throws a bone to his mate, his roommate, Danny DeVito.
Wow.
And then, which is quite remarkable, right?
Yeah.
And what I think is fascinating about this film is that if you watch this film now, you see who Douglas will become. You see the point where he goes, you know what? I know who I should be as a character, which is basically the same guy you see in Basic Instinct, in Wall Street. It's the guy that's good looking, dangerous, a little bit sleazy.
Nice.
But not too sleazy. Like, he's basically the anti-hero. And he's sometimes clearly the anti-hero as he is in Wall Street, and other times he's the hero as he is in this movie. But, he's complicated, right? He's got edge to him.
Well, yeah, I mean, his vibe was basically era-defining.
Yeah.
That kind of like sleazy cool guy, you know.
Yeah, and I think this film was where he just locked into that. He went, this is who I am, and I'm just going to lean in hard to this particular character. And it works, and it works. This film's fascinating to me because it gets so much right and so much wrong. And let me explain. This film is partly autobiographical in the sense that you have an author who becomes the heroine of her own fantasy. But I think the problem with this film is that it was made in an era from the male gaze, which doesn't quite get it right. So these films are similar but different. Indiana Jones is the hero in Temple of Doom, very clearly. And Kate Capshaw is the, damsel in distress. There's squealing, there's midriff, there's cleavage, there's skirts, there's helplessness and so on. And she occasionally shows autonomy and so on, but that's occasional. In this film here, Kathleen Turner starts off as a damsel in distress. She's a smart person, ostensibly, in her professional job, finds herself as a fish out of water, and then ends up being rescued by the swashbuckler Michael Douglas character. And on a few times, she shows initiative and shows him up. Like that time when she discovers there's actually a faster way to cross the ravine on a vine, right? And he's totally oblivious. But there are other moments where she just sort of is very much helpless to him. And to me, the defining problem with this film, or the bit where Zemeckis gets wrong, is the bit where and they actually reshot this scene. The start of the film where they show her look at a poster of a good-looking hero on her wall and basically showing her going, that's the sort of guy I wish I had. Mm-hmm. The Michael Douglas in fiction. Then she discovers the Michael Jackson, the Michael Douglas in reality. Do you remember that scene on that kind of green hill where it shows him looking at her with her leg kind of cocked out with the dress split right up to the upper thigh as she bends over picking flowers? And he basically gives this really sleazy look like, yeah. Like it's like that look that Joey would give off Friends. Like it's totally like him perving on her. And that's a great example where the film doesn't quite know which perspective it's meant to take. Because what should be happening is we should be seeing her looking at a real-life version of the guy she wrote about as the hero in her own stories. And that's the confusing part about this movie to me.
Yeah, interesting.
What do you think what do you think of the performances, just generally? Like, before we get to like the best execution of the common premise, what do you think of, you've got DeVito, Douglas, and Turner, all very early in their film careers. This launched all three careers through the stratosphere. How do you think they work? I mean, for me, DeVito is giving us an early version of what he becomes. In fact, I think they all are. But what's your take?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Particularly DeVito and Douglas. Douglas, like you said. I mean, Kathleen Turner hasn't quite hit that sort of, what do you call it? Oh no, I guess she has. Hold on.
Well, she was in Body Heat before this, I think.
I'm getting my dates all wrong. Yeah. I was like,
she was in Body Heat, but that was like a breakout role, and it wasn't actually a big role in relation to really stretching her to demonstrate her acting chops.
No, you're right. I mean, I think that those three are good in this movie as proto versions of themselves. I think a bunch of the supporting cast is fairly forgettable. Like, I couldn't tell you who played the villain, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just, Ben, I got to say, I'm really struggling to remember much of this movie. That's really embarrassing to say, but God damn it.
And you only saw it 3 days ago.
Well, no, I must have seen it like 10 days ago.
Okay, let me help you out here.
Okay, help me out here, Ben.
I watched the last 20 minutes again because I forgot about it. Now, admittedly, I had a few glasses of wine. I was a bit tired. But the last 20 minutes, I just can't recall. So I went back and watched it again, and then I recalled how ludicrous it was. So spoilers for the film if you haven't seen this, which is now, how old? 36 years old. Do you remember that scene at the end where our villain gets the jewel and catches the jewel and the crocodile...
Oh, the crocodile bites his hand off.
And this is back in the days where I know that there were less ratings, less classifications, so there was less scope. Something was either general for the whole audience, the whole family, or like rated R or X. Like there was no middle ground. And this film, I think, was like PG-13 in the States. I think it was PG in Australia.
No, Ben, no. You see,
Huh? Or was it?
You see, because of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, specifically, I believe the MPAA created the PG-13 rating because Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was released with a PG rating.
Because of the heart.
Which is crazy to think of. Yeah, which is crazy to think of these days because for a PG movie, it's incredibly violent.
Oh, incredibly.
You know, for something that you would look at that rating and go, well, I guess I should take my 6-year-old. Thanks, Dad.
Well, the fact that the hand being thrust into the chest and pulling out the beating heart was there, to me, is incredibly more impactful than the melting face at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, so the scene where the crocodile bites off the villain's hand in this particular film, it's pretty graphic, right? Like the blood spurting out, you see his hand like a stump and whatever. And there's this ludicrous part where the crocodile's been off the hand with the stone in it. And there's this hilarious bit which feels like a parody where Michael Douglas grabs a crocodile's tail as the crocodile is trying to escape back into the river through a small gap on a bridge, and is basically pulling it like a tug of war style to try and stop it from escaping to reclaim the jewel. It's kind of surreal, right? But it actually looks quite good in terms of visual effects, but it's kind of wacky.
But why do you think that's... I mean, that doesn't feel like it's out of step with the tone of the rest of the movie, which is, I guess, heightened.
I thought it was more violent.
Ah.
I didn't think the preceding scenes were as violent as that. To me, it felt like a soft romance novel in the vein of actually the fictional novels that Kathleen Turner's character actually wrote in the film.
Gotcha.
And maybe the point is to say that this is reality clashing with fantasy.
Ah, yes.
Well, Tim, what do you think? Like, putting aside the crocodile, like, does the film gel for you? Because that's a pretty eventful moment, and you could argue is unforgettable, but we both forgot about it. What doesn't work, do you think, to just retain something for us? Is the fact that we're just at the wrong age, the wrong gender, maybe the wrong era, that this film doesn't feel as groundbreaking as perhaps it did? Because this film was basically, I think, the female version of Raiders of the Lost Ark then. So it might have felt quite progressive comparatively, and now it just comes across a bit, static.
Well, I guess what's lacking, and I think you basically said this earlier, that I guess I expected more scale. Like, I just expected the movie to be bigger or something. The set pieces to be bigger. I don't know. Like you said, the cover is Michael Douglas swinging on a vine as a bright sunlight, beams of sunlight, shine out, and he's hanging, Kathleen Turner is hanging on his arm. And yeah, I don't know. In the end, it's just, a little bit podunk, that it's just small scale. I expected more, which is a bit unfair, I guess, because, that seems just a bit tough to say, but it just never feel like it escalated enough or something, where's the sort of the epic swashbuckling adventure?
Yeah, I agree. I think it has ambition, and we're both struggling, right, to try and define this film, because I think it's very much a film of its time. And we've talked before about films like Commando 2, and Rambo 2 and so on. And like, can they outlive their era? Can they have a presence beyond their time? Star Wars, yes. Jaws, even with dodgy special effects and visual effects, yes. I think this film was at a transitional point, and I think the gender politics is particularly notable and dated in that regard. In fact, you could pretty much say that Michael Douglas's career potentially, don't you think? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, nice.
Like, right? Like, I mean, even films like, I love Michael Douglas. I love his films, but like Falling Down, which I think is a great movie, that's a complicated film to rewatch in 2020. What do you think?
Oh, dude, 100%. Like, have you watched Black Rain recently?
No.
Like,
that's the Morgan Freeman one?
Don't get me wrong, I love that movie, but
Which one?
man,
Which film is that?
that's the one where Michael Douglas goes to Japan to avenge the death of Andy Garcia. And it's one of those movies where, you know, it's totally of its time. Ridley Scott directed it. It's like super slick, but goddamn has it, you know, just parts of it not aged well. But I think you're absolutely onto something, because when was the last time you were in any sort of, you know, sophisticated film conversation and someone brought up Romancing the Stone? It's just one of those movies that nobody talks about anymore.
Okay, here's a controversial take. Is Michael Stone... Michael Stone. It's basically Sharon Stone's love child with Michael Douglas.
Nice.
Is Michael Douglas so zeitgeist-y as an actor that every film he's made has dated? So let's just do a quick little segue here, right?
Okay.
If you walk through it, right? Falling Down. Oh, the challenges of being middle-class white male. Oh, my life is so hard. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
still a good movie, but yep, I agree.
Great movie, like really great movie, but hard to replay in 2020 for many reasons.
Okay.
Right?
Would you say Fatal Attraction has dated though?
Fatal Attraction?
So it's a guy who has an affair and then she feels put out by him not...
Yep, I would say because the female protagonist who has a sexual appetite is defined as being psychotic.
Yeah.
So the idea being that you can only be sexually active if you are an anomaly.
Right, or Michael Douglas, because he fucked his way through the 80s and 90s like a bull.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Now let's go to Basic Instinct. Right.
Classic.
Lesbians and murderers. Like.
Yep.
Okay. Like there's an element there that.
Yep.
If you are not heterosexual, you're an anomaly again, and with that comes other forms of deviancy, including murder.
Yeah. And then I guess he did Disclosure as well. God, he's often
Disclosure.
the victim of promiscuous women, isn't he?
So Disclosure, he is the quote victim unquote of a powerful, autonomous, sexually independent, confident woman, and he's the victim. Mm-hmm. Okay,
yeah.
Keep going. What else do we have?
The American president. Well, you know, the tide has turned on what we think of American presidents these days.
I actually lose sight of his career around 2000, which is like Wonder Boys. When's Traffic? Traffic's around
2000.
2000.
Well.
So when Traffic came out, he was kind of like getting over the hill. He was playing a father figure. He wasn't playing a sexual hero.
Sexual hero.
It's true, right?
Sure.
It's true. He's a 15-year run of playing a sleazy hero, and then he's playing a dad and a congressman. And then it's been 20 years since then. Like, what's he done without looking at IMDb now, just off the top of your head? And this is, again, I really like Michael Douglas as an actor. I'm just trying to place him now. It's been a 20-year gap. So Michelle Pfeiffer had a similar gap, and she's come back with a bang, right?
Mm.
She had children, and she unapologetically said, I went from the Catwoman, you know, latex outfit, and I focused on family, and then she just came back. And I can't think what Michael Douglas has done the same way.
Okay, I'll give you one movie that he ruled in, Behind the Candelabra, where he played Liberace for Steven Soderbergh.
And that was...
Great performance, great movie, very good.
And that film was at the cutting edge where it was like one of the first films to go to HBO as a TV movie. Like it gave credibility to being a non-theatrical release.
Right.
So what are we in 2014? I've lost...
Yeah, somewhere around the 2013, 2014. But apart from that, I mean, I guess he's cashed in doing what anti-man movies.
Okay, that's his comeback. Yeah,
So he can play,
Yeah.
he can play old, what do you call the old man who are fathery figures? No, what do you call that? Like people who
Father figures.
help the hero. Yeah, no, like wise sage-like characters. He got.
Oh, you're talking about like sort of Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey, like mentors.
He got old. He claimed that he got mouth cancer from eating too much.
Jeez.
Seriously. But look, anyway, and yeah, now he's sort of in that age, sort of forgettable. But look, he was an absolute defining element of the sort of late 80s and 90s. He was the guy.
All right, perhaps you should leave this guy and go to the next guy and gal. What do you say?
Okay, sounds good.
Let's shift gears.
Okay.
I have left something. I've left some money on the table. Sorry, I forgot to say. There is a point at 70 minutes where they dance. Do you recall this point?
I do.
Did you listen to the soundtrack and it sounded exactly like the Seinfeld theme?
Yeah, very nice. I did. That's very good.
It is remarkable. Like, I don't know. You'd have to be calling the composer. If you're the composer of this movie, you'd be calling the composer of Seinfeld and saying, "Ooh, it sounds pretty similar." Anyway.
Yeah, right.
Just had to drop that in. Let's jump to Temple of Doom. Okay, Gabe, what did you like? What grinded your gears? And did do a better version of the same concept than Romancing the Stone?
It's interesting, Ben, because I think in the last couple of years, there's been a sort of critical reevaluation of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. People seem to be much more eager or open about praising this movie, whereas back in the day, it was sort of the indie movie that no one liked as much. I've always liked this movie. I'm ahead of the curve in this. I think this is a fun movie. It's a good time. It's a great time. I mean, there's a few questionable elements to it that maybe have dated a little bit or something like that. But I like this movie a lot. I think this is it's an all-round fun time. I like that it's a prequel. I like that it's actually set in a whole other,
Whoa, what?
Well, it's not in fact set in World War II in Europe, Ben. This movie takes place 1 year before, and it's set in a country called India.
Sorry, is this film actually a prequel? I'm quite sincere here.
Yeah, dude, it's a prequel.
No.
It's set in 1935.
I had no idea.
Well, I mean, most of us realised this after seeing the movie for a second time.
Hang on. Sorry. Okay. Whoa, everything's just...
So did you think he just dumped Marion and
Yep.
had just somehow wound up in a relationship with this?
Yep.
Wow. Okay, no. So, no, in fact, he dumps Willie Scott between movies.
So, okay, hang on. Why bother doing it as a prequel? I mean, this would have to be one of the first prequels, right? I mean, I thought that the Star Wars prequels were the first, big prequels. Why would you bother? Because the time difference would probably only be a few years. Why not just set it 1 year after The Lost Ark?
I don't know. And I do wonder what the first ever prequel was. In fact, I know what the first ever prequel was, Ben. It was The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Great movie. George Lucas did not invent the prequel.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, yeah, that's a good question. And maybe it was because of Marion Ravenswood that they didn't want to do a straight sequel, because then how are they going to plug her into this or give India romantic subplot? So, it's not like setting it a few years later, you wouldn't have, British colonial control over India. You could have set this movie all the way up to insert date here. I don't know, when did the British hand back India?
I don't know, but I think for most mainstream audiences, they're not going to really quibble over those details. I mean, for example, in The Winter Soldier, the Captain America film, there's a whole different Nazi-esque baddie called Hydra. So, tomato, tomato.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so you're right. I suppose it's an interesting choice. And look, I'm surprised you didn't know that. I guess there's nothing really in the movie is there anything that really, I don't know, signposted it as a prequel apart from a date?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to watch both films back to back, but they would have to say, with some sort of subtitle, set before the first movie. I think most audiences back then would assume this is set chronologically after the first movie, just because at the time we weren't as sophisticated in relation to this whole idea of prequels, or jumping forward in time. We just expected sequels to carry on chronologically, 1 month, 1 year, 2 years after the first film. In fact, I would argue that back then, if a movie came out 3 years after the first movie, most audiences would expect it to reflect a 3-year gap in time.
Wow, so you're saying that people would think the number of years that have passed between sequels is the amount of years that have actually passed for those characters?
Yeah, totally.
That's really funny.
No, it's not. It's not just funny. It's like amazingly correct. So,
okay, yeah.
Let's work through Star Wars. So the first Star Wars happens.
Okay,
and there's a war amongst the stars.
Yep, the first Star Wars, which was set in 1970, whatever. Yep,
the Star Wars. And then I think it was like 4 years later, out comes Empire Strikes Back. So between the end of the Star Wars and the Empire, where do we land? We land in basically first scene. They're fighting in the ice. I don't know. It could be one.
I don't know when they're set. Did they put dates on Star Wars, like in the opening scroll, where they're like, the Empire's blah blah continue? Is it like star date?
Yeah, I don't think they have.
But
Jesus is there for a timeline like AD and BC. Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
The opening shot of every Star Wars film says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
But I don't know. It feels like to me when you watch those movies without any reference to dates, it feels like you're probably, 6 months to a year later? Like at the end of Star Wars, cutting to like they're doing a bit of a shoot 'em up, a bit of a search with those tauntauns. That feels like about 6...
Tauntauns?
Yeah, that's like the camel on 2 legs.
This may smell bad, kid, but it'll keep you warm. I thought they smelled bad. On the outside.
Oh, that's what they're called, tauntauns.
Yeah.
How do you know this, Ben?
Well, how do you know so much about Temple of Doom? Again, tomato, tomato, horses, courses.
Right, fair.
Anywho, let's circle back.
Look, I'll watch, what was the movie called? The Empire Strikes Back one day. So
yeah,
I'll get to it.
Yeah.
I'll get to it.
It's The Empire Strikes Back.
An Empire Strikes Back.
No, is it A Empire Strikes Back?
An Empire Strikes Again.
It's very confusing.
Whatever it's called. Anyway, no one cares about those movies.
Yes.
So, I mean, I guess I'm really interested, Ben, though, in you having watched this for the first time, because it's one of those movies. I mean, all the Indiana Jones movies for me are those movies where I just have seen them so many times. But you watching for this for the first time, I mean, what was it like? I'm almost jealous. I'm jealous, Ben. I wish I could watch this for the first time again.
Gabe, I was bored.
No.
You know that scene, there's this great scene I always think of. There's this
Shame.
great scene in Gattaca where Jude Law says to Ethan Hawke, I'm bored. Look, I was surprised how static this movie is. And I'm stunned that after the massive success of the first movie, set in multiple locations with a great sense of scale, just different vistas, like you're outrunning a boulder, you're taking off on a plane, all in the first 5 minutes.
Wait, hold on. In the first 5 minutes of this, there's a big shootout in a club. They take off in a plane, and then they jump out of the plane in a inflatable raft.
Yeah, okay, that's where the antics begin. So hang on. The first film, you've got like planes and people with getting cut up by planes, and you've got like a staff setting up, revealing a secret, and then you've got like faces melting and locations, and in the
Ben, you have things revealing secrets in this. You have hearts being torn out of chests and people melting.
In the third film, you've got like, trains with snakes, and you've got like tanks and like scaling tanks, and
there's bugs in this one. There's ceilings that are collapsing with spikes in them, and someone's got to put their hand in a hole full of bugs. It's got it.
I thought you said there are feelings collapsing. I thought, oh, Gabe,
yeah,
with your high EQ, just being, you're so empathetic, like all these feelings collapsing.
Oh my God, are you one of those people who puts their Myers-Briggs thingy on their like Twitter profile? I don't know what's worse. Here, just a little quick one.
Oh, you're so INTJ, Gabe, but I am so ENTJ.
Which is worse, putting your Myers-Briggs thing on your Twitter profile, or putting which sorting school hat thing from Harry Potter you would be? Which is worse?
I actually have never read or watched Harry Potter. Stand by it. Won't apologise for it. So that comparison is lost on me.
Wow.
Myers-Briggs, I am familiar with. I have been educated on and not a big fan of. But yeah, I can get that reference. Anywho.
Okay.
Look. Gabe.
I can't believe this, Ben. I can't believe you. Is this like what modern audiences are like? You are now a modern audience when it came to this movie.
Look. There are two versions of movies.
Glancing up from your phone every 15 minutes to check in with the film that you're watching, All
right. There are two versions of movies. There is a James Bond film, which is, quote, globe-trotting, unquote.
Right.
Where basically, to keep the audience invested, you basically have what is the flight jet or web jet or luxury escapes version of movies, where you basically drop the character in a different location, which is exciting. It's Mexico during, what do you call that event? Dawn of the Dead or whatever.
Dia de los Muertos or whatever it's called. The Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
Ben,
Yeah. Oh.
Ben, I know colonialism is obviously bad, but colonial India in 1935 is a great, interesting setting for a movie.
100%.
Well,
I'm on board with the film. First thing happens, the little inflatable boat goes off the river or it falls out of the plane, and they miraculously land in a river. It's very silly. Like you've got to really suspend belief. Like,
you're killing me here.
There is plausible physics or possible physics, and there's just shenanigans.
We're talking about a movie series where God is real and the Ark exists.
Yeah, look, maybe it's my, repressed former Catholic background, but I can get aboard that. I can get aboard the faith journey or aliens. I have trouble with 3 people in a inflatable boat jumping out of a plane. It doesn't flip over miraculously, and they fly through the air. Pretty poor CG or pretty poor visual effects. And they land on a river and then just descend down the river. It's a little bit silly.
Man. Yeah. Can you hear my voice going high like this? That means I'm really angry right now. Gotcha. And look, if you listen to this podcast, just write in and abuse Ben. I mean, I'm going to post his address online, send him some actual, smear some shit in an envelope and post it to him. I can't believe these things that you're saying, Ben.
Yeah. Just basically hire, like, is it Rabbit Tasker? Just deliver, like, a flaming bag of dog poo on my front porch, and I race outside and try and put it out, and, SpaghettiOs. I stamp it out, and get poo all over my shoe.
That's right. Well, tell me, what else didn't you like about this movie, Ben?
Okay. So then they land at the place, and they it all happens at the same location. I just found it a little bit boring.
Right. So you don't like Short Round? What about Short Round? Do you like Short Round?
Yeah, look, okay, so I had a impression of Short Round. When I was a kid, people did like impressions of Short Round. Now,
This sounds like a slightly dicey territory. Hey, Ben, why don't you do one of those impressions of Short Round for us right now?
Yeah, Ben, why don't you like jump in 2 boots and all? Like, yeah. So, but they actually did it, I think, endearingly. So,
Oh, yeah, that type of impression.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So,
Oh, look, you were kids.
I feel like
You
we're
were
sort of
kids.
like stepping into like Louis C.K. territory here. Like it might have been funny at a moment in time, and then we
Masturbating in front of people.
well, yeah, there's that version. Or there is like versions of slurs where the joke teller should, quote, know better, unquote. Anywho,
Okay.
yeah, so, Short Round had a bit of a reputation around the playground. People would imitate Short Round. Now, for the audience who haven't seen this movie, he has a distinct accent as a second English language speaker. So I reckon back in 84, they were probably doing it. I actually don't think they were taking the piss. I think they were actually kind of doing it endearingly. Or maybe it was half and half. What are your thoughts?
Look, I think we can look back on those things we might have said in the playground in 1984 and, reassess our attitudes towards them now. And would I do a Short Round impersonation? No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think it's just a case that, yeah. But I think he was presented as a Robin to Indy's Batman. I don't think he's presented as being a clown. I think he's presented as being lovable.
Yeah, Short Round's awesome.
And if you want to follow that analogy through, not Marion, but Kate Capshaw's character is the Catwoman to Batman, right? Love, hate, antics, shenanigans.
Wait, no, God, no. Look, I'm gonna extend to you an olive branch here, Ben.
Oh, so generous of you.
Yes, thank you. Willie Scott sucks. She is so annoying. God damn. Ugh. Like,
There is
what,
so much
what an
squealing.
unlikable character.
I agree.
Oh, it's just all the time she's just complaining, and look, I get it. She's a nightclub singer who's stuck now in the having to ride an elephant and having to eat monkey brain soup or whatever. But bloody hell, you absolutely nailed it. Like coming off the back of a Marion Ravenswood, this is just a step down. I'm sorry, Mrs. Steven Spielberg, but just no good. No good.
Do you think that they basically lucked into Marion's character in the first film and didn't actually recognise what they had? Because it's quite remarkable to get it right so well the first time in Raiders and then just get it so wrong the second time round. Like, it kind of astounds me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say, Karen Allen is just a heaps better actress than Kate Capshaw, because I don't think that's true. I mean, I think...
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Kate Capshaw's a bad actor at all. I think she actually does with what she has, she does a great job.
Yeah, I really think that the problem here is they've just written this character to be just so irritating. And I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be funny, and I guess some bits are kind of funny, but mostly it just grates so hard. So that to me is I will in this extension of an olive branch, Ben, that is something that I would happily ding this movie
all right.
on. Also, Harrison Ford looks a little bored sometimes.
Yeah, I guess if Michael Douglas was tapping into his on-screen persona for multiple films to come, what do you think? Is it arguable that Harrison Ford kind of, lent into that kind of, bored, muted character that made him famous in films right through to our most recent podcast, Air Force One, where he just is so emotionally repressed on screen?
I mean, apart from the couple of Peter Weir movies he did, I would say he essentially just plays Harrison Ford in everything. And, I mean, that's great. That's why he's a movie star. But...
yeah, I think most of these actors play versions of themselves. And if you hear them speak in interviews, it feels like they're just basically doing that version. So Tom Cruise. Gun Ho, sports, danger.
Sports.
Michael Douglas, sleazy, anti-hero. Harrison Ford, curmudgeonly,
Finger pointer.
finger pointer. That's right.
Yeah.
Any final words to wrap up this review on Temple of Doom?
Look, I like it. I like it a lot.
All right. So basically, Gabe has a review of a 6-year-old, and
That's right.
it's pretty good. All right. Let's get to our combined review. Any notable similarities, like any coincidences or rip-offs? I mean, obviously, both films have alligators at the end, which is kind of quite bizarre. Like, I actually, in my memory, kind of confused both scenes where people are torn apart by alligators. Anything else?
What sort of a Colombian city has alligators just in the sewer that just anyone that really? I mean, is that true? Is that real?
No.
It's just like at any point, someone could just fall through a sewer grate and just be devoured by a whole bunch of alligators.
Yeah, fair to say they weren't as sophisticated in their understanding and knowledge of areas outside the US of A. Which film has aged better?
Well, I think we answered that when we said, when was the last time anyone talks about the romancing of the stone?
Okay. Any plot holes or missed opportunities? Like, what could the filmmakers have done better with this same high concept?
Well, I mean, what do you think for romancing the stone? I think we've talked about that.
I
Haven't we,
think
Ben?
it's pretty much keeping it focused on the female gaze would have been
Yeah.
more consistent and progressive.
Very good.
Temple of Doom, again, back to gender politics. Had a
True.
a stronger female protagonist, or a stronger female co-lead.
True.
All right, let's jump to trivia, bit of behind the scenes.
All right. Which are we starting with, Ben?
Let's start with Romancing the Stone. Did you, in your deep dive, discover anything of any note?
So you mentioned the dancing scene before, Ben, the Seinfeld theme scored dancing scene. Apparently,
Yeah.
the legend goes Michael Douglas didn't even know he was being filmed. He just thought he and Kathleen Turner were having a nice little dance surrounded by the extras. Reading this story, that sounds like complete bullshit to me.
I agree. Like, who keeps the cameras rolling and let?
That
And,
doesn't sound real at all.
and wasn't it cut between like 2 or 3 camera angles?
Oh yeah, what a load of shit.
It sort of feels like a pre-apology for his bad dancing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Do you recall the dancing in Basic Instinct? You know, it wasn't great.
No, I just recall those like plunging V neckline sort of jumpers, indoor sweaters he wears without a shirt underneath. Ugh.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
great.
Yeah. Distracting.
Did you know, Ben? Did you know that because of the number of kidnappings that were actually happening in Colombia, they had to shoot the movie in Mexico?
Ah, interesting. Okay. Actually, I didn't realize it was actually a third installment called The Crimson Eagle that went into development but was actually never made. I mean, I thought these 2 films back to back would have made enough cash to justify it, but apparently that one, Jack and Joan, along with their 2 children, SpaghettiOs, wacky family shenanigans. They go to Thailand and are blackmailed into stealing a precious statue.
Yeah, it sucks when they bring in kids into movies like this. The Mummy Part 3, I'm Looking at You.
Spy Kids.
Wait, they're just kids' movies.
Yeah, but
Anyway,
to me, that's like a sequel. It's like basically like a sequel to a James Bond movie.
right. Okay. Did you know, Ben? Did you know that during shooting, Michael Douglas was bitten on the hand by a venomous snake and Danny DeVito leaped into action and sucked the venom out?
Is that bullshit? No way.
Well, this is a story apparently that Michael Douglas told on Late Night with Seth Meyers or something. But, I mean, again, that sounds like bullshit to me.
Yeah, it totally does. It totally sounds like basically everyone's feeling good about themselves. He's like their flatmates. They're paying the rent for each other. Everyone's getting a leg up from this movie. Everyone's doing pretty well. And we all laugh and slap each other on the back because we feel pretty good.
Yeah.
How about let's jump across to Temple of Doom. So, interesting development.
Oh, yeah.
Any highlights there that you read about at all? I mean, this film obviously was trying to really cash in on the first film. I didn't realize actually, you know that chamber sequence with the bugs? Kate Capshaw was actually covered with over 2,000 insects. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean,
only then would they actually use real insects. Now it'd be CGI, but then they went for the real McCoy.
I know, that's awesome. God, filmmaking used to be cool.
Kate Capshaw actually, in retrospect, has actually been very critical of her own character and saying that Willie was not much more than a dumb, screaming blonde. So there you go. She recognised, you know, in retrospect, and talking about the film made by her husband of like, you know, almost 40 years, that she was a pretty prone character.
Yeah, totally. I mean, why didn't anyone bring it up at the time?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think on that, I mean, didn't Spielberg himself even say that he didn't enjoy this film as much as the others? But at least he met his future wife. Kate Capshaw is his future wife.
I didn't realise that. Interesting. Anything else?
I will say about IMDb trivia generally, God, there's a lot of people just putting up a lot of bullshit on there these days.
Totally.
Back in the day, I did used to like reading it, but now you just get people just putting up any old rubbish. Like dead set, get this. On the Romancing the Stone trivia page, there's a trivia note that only 9 of 24 people have even found interesting. But it says this: fans have been rallying for some time for the next instalment, The Crimson Eagle, to be made. That or a Romancing the Stone Raiders of the Lost Ark crossover. I mean, in what universe do you really actually think Indiana Jones movies would do a crossover with the Romancing the Stones movies?
That's right. Well, I guess we're in a world now where there's possibility of the Fast and Furious crossing over with John Wick. So I guess it's...
Yeah, but those are two good... I suppose maybe at the time Romancing the Stone was a hot franchise, but, that just seems like a load of garbage to me.
I agree. You can't trust trivia. All right, let's jump to casting woulda, shoulda, couldas. So the big one is really Romancing the Stone, where Michael Douglas originally offered the role of Joan Allen, of Joan to Deborah Winger.
Okay.
And they actually met at a Mexican restaurant to discuss it, but according to Douglas, she ended up biting him. So she didn't get the part.
Wait, she what?
Biting him. Like, you heard that correctly. That's it. Like, that's all it says at IMDb. It just says she ended up biting him. Full stop or period. She didn't get the part.
Wow, that's weird. I mean, I read that Sylvester Stallone turned down the role of Jack Colton so he could star in Rhinestone, which he and all of us have come to regret.
Were there any other casting woulda, shoulda, couldas way over at Temple of Doom?
Not that I know of any. Do you know of any?
Well, apparently Lawrence Kasdan was unavailable because he was working on The Big Chill. So he couldn't partake, and that's how Spielberg came on board. So that's, interesting to see who could have ended up behind the camera.
Yeah, right. Well, wait, Lawrence Kasdan was going to direct?
Well, yeah.
No, right, surely.
Yeah, no, I guess, yeah. Oh, sorry, you're right. You are correct. Right, yes.
Listen to this, though. I read a review of this movie written by Lawrence Kasdan, and he said he thought it was horrible. It's so mean. There's just nothing pleasant about it. It's an ugly, chaotic period of Lucas and Spielberg's lives, and the movie is mean-spirited. Wow, geez, don't hold back, Larry Kasdan.
Yeah, wow. Well, they got together to write again for the future, so it all worked out in the end. The only other one, interesting, to circle back to the Stone, was apparently Clint Eastwood, Jack Nicholson, and Christopher Reeve turned down the role of Jack T. Colton before Michael Douglas accepted the part, which is weird because when it says that he accepted, he actually was the producer. So, it's like,
right.
Hey, Michael, do you want to do the film? Michael answers to himself. Yes, I would like to be the star of this movie. Thank you.
I mean, maybe the studio sort of said to him, hey, look, you might be able to do it, but first these other blokes have got to turn it down.
Yeah, possibly. It makes sense. Okay. Let's move on to Spot the Aussie. I didn't spot any in either film. Did you?
I did not.
Okay. Let's jump to Big Trouble in Little Production. I couldn't find any sort of bad stories at all. How about yourself?
No. Apart from people retrospectively hating Temple of Doom, and didn't Harrison Ford hurt his back? Like he herniated a disc, but beyond that,
That was it.
nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing that I.
Okay. I couldn't find anything either in relation to, crazy marketing methodology, madness, and missteps. So let's jump to the box office. Okay. Which movie, Gabe, do you predict was the box office champ?
I'm going to guess that Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom made more money than Romancing the Stone. But despite no one giving much of a shit about it these days, I bet Romancing the Stone was quite the hit.
Yeah, okay. So you're right and you're right. So
Yeah.
Romancing the Stone was made for only $10 million, even with inflation.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
We've talked about this before, about some of those Stallone movies like Commando or
Right.
Rambo 2. Like, they got a lot of bang for their buck.
Commando's Schwarzenegger, man.
Well, those guys. Like,
Yeah, sure.
the money was on screen. So $10 million, it did pretty well, actually. It made $76.5 million domestically. Look, that's a smash, right?
Yeah.
We weirdly only did 10 million internationally and 86.5 all up worldwide, which makes me think you and I perhaps saw this on video in the video store so much because it made its money and did, on those rentals, but didn't get that same huge release it did originally in the States.
Mm.
All right. So jumping over to Indy. Okay. So Indy had a budget of 28 million.
Mm-hmm.
It made 180 million domestically, which is huge back then, plus 153 internationally for a grand total of 333 million worldwide.
That's a hit.
I mean, that's phenomenal.
That's a hit.
That's a hit. All right, let's jump to Rotten Tomatoes. Have a guess, Gabe, which movie impressed the critics the most?
Just on a head-to-head basis, I'm going to say that Romancing the Stone actually got better reviews than Temple of Doom.
Interesting. Okay. Romancing does 85% versus Temple, which does 84%.
Wow.
Romancing squeaked it out.
Pipped at the post.
How about audiences?
I'm going to say Temple of Doom ahead of Romancing the Stone.
Yeah, you nailed it. 69% of audiences loved Romancing, but 81% loved Temple of Doom.
There you go.
Okay, let's go to the awards. Have we got a song yet? Like, do.
Are you just doing the Seinfeld song?
That's right. This is where Sam can insert that music from that sexy dancing scene from Temple of Doom. Yeah, I've got no. I mean, we've tried our little beats. We've tried drum roll. We've tried fireworks. I'm running low on ideas as to how to really kind of like announce this session of the podcast.
Just like a low tone, a brown sound.
A brown sound. So that famous sound allegedly that causes
Drop your guts.
other soldiers just to like, yeah, nice. Okay.
Did you just soil yourself? Maybe. It did sound a little wet, didn't it? Right at the end. Ooh. Let's have a smell, all right?
Okay. Best title.
Well, at least it's great. But look, pretty good titles, both of them.
I like the idea of saying this is our protagonist now going forward. Indiana Jones and insert something. I like that kind of classic vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that they waited to the sequel to do this. I mean, I know they've sort of tried to retroactively call Raiders of the Lost Ark now Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, if you go to Netflix or whatever, they do that.
Too many movies now, Ben, call their first one by the name as if they're already iconic. Like,
Example.
well, I don't actually want to rag on it because I love John Wick, but John Wick, or,
Sorry, hang on. The first John Wick was called John Wick.
yeah, I know. I don't like it when they call, like, what I'm saying is that you can't.
Oh, so you don't like when they get it right the first time. You like it when they actually course correct.
You gotta
afterwards.
own. You you got to know that your character is an icon before you can call your movie after him. It's preemptive otherwise.
Okay, so it's like Rambo.
You know, unless you're a movie based on a real person, you know, Ed Wood, or a pre-existing property, you know, Dick Tracy.
Look, I think you're onto something here, like John Carter of Mars. Rather than say John Carter of Mars and make it exciting with the Mars bit, they went, let's call it John Carter. Yeah. But they hadn't actually established John Carter as being just this iconic hero that we love.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you call your sequel to Michael Clayton. Call your first one Bagman. That's terrible.
I actually think that Michael Clayton is an amazing film. And the only thing wrong with that film is the title of the movie. And I'm saying that by saying that film is so incredible, I think it did well in spite of the title of the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Big call, I know, but that to follow your theory through, that's where you land.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I'm probably being a little bit silly with it, but
so you prefer to call Michael Clayton like Bagman Lawyer?
Well, I mean, I would just go with Bagman. But
well, the Lincoln Lawyer, right? The Lincoln Lawyer. They call it the Lincoln Lawyer, not the name of the character played by
Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, some movies, the occasional movie just comes out iconic straight from the gate, like Billy Madison. The name is in the title, the character is an icon. That's fine. But, you know,
Little Nicky.
Less so, exactly. You know,
Big Daddy.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. It's
Huey Halloween.
Great film. I think who knows, Ben? It would. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Jerry Maguire. I mean, sometimes they just get it right. But
Bridget Jones.
Diary. Her full name was actually Bridget Jones Diary. Not many people know that it's not actually about a diary. Her surname is Diary.
Going to say, one of the greatest offences of the time that just really, really gave me the shits was posters and cinemas spelling it Bridget Jones 'S. Oh, that really got me.
Wait, you mean the additional S?
Yep.
So not just
Yep.
JONES apostrophe.
So as Ben Phelps, who learnt, that the apostrophe goes after the S for the ownership. So Ben Phelps's shoes goes Phelps, then the apostrophe, then shoes. It was doing the apostrophe and the S on the S. It was a hat on a hat, an S on an S.
Really? Well,
it really gave me the grammatical bejeebies.
Really? Because a little-known author called Stephen King would like to send a big FU to you, Ben, because I think he believes you should always end a possessive with a apostrophe S, regardless of whether the word ends in an S or not.
So what's his example?
So he would say that Bridget Jones apostrophe S diary is the correct way to do it.
But hang on, isn't he basically fighting like 95% of grammatical experts?
Well, 95% of grammatical experts probably haven't wrote no Stephen King book or as successful as Stephen King. So those nerdburgers can F off and I'm going to listen to the man.
So I love how you use like the wrote no, like very clever, very clever. Credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Like that was an S on an S on an S. Well played, sir.
Thank you.
All right, let's get back to put some stink in the stank. So let's go to best poster.
Okay, so we're going off the IMDb. We're going off the IMDb posters, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is a Drew Struzan classic. I'm assuming it's Drew Struzan, and it's big old head of Harrison Ford, and then on his right shoulder is the bloke holding the flaming heart, and then all kinds of sword fighting malarkey going on. And then over on his left shoulder, there's Willie Scott, and below her, there's Short Round, and below them, there's some elephants. It says action, adventure, red and blue. It's got everything. Weirdly, Indy's face, he's looking kind of unimpressed. I don't know, his expression's kind of a bit odd, but okay. Romancing the Stone, as you described, Ben. Michael Douglas, big grin on his face. Kathleen Turner hanging on his back as they swing on a vine across some form of, what do you call it, a chasm?
Yeah, a chasm, a valley, chasm.
Yeah. Interestingly, Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones's tagline, just while we're here, says, "If adventure has a name, it must be Indiana Jones."
Okay, so what's your favourite?
That's shots fired. I think they're both pretty good posters, but Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom wins for me because it actually delivers on what's in the movie.
Yeah, I'm going for Romance in the Stone.
Ooh.
I think that's actually got a sense of more drama than the floating big heads.
Wow.
It doesn't deliver on the movie, but I think it's a better poster.
Wow. Okay. So it's a piece of artwork.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so it's a dead rubber.
Yeah.
Let's move to the Bill Fleck Big Break Award, named after American indie actors Billy Bob and Ben Affleck. Who got their big break in these twin movies?
Starting with?
Romance in the Stone.
Okay. Well, didn't you not say that Danny DeVito?
I like after basically 50 episodes of this, you need like that little, it's like...
Well, usually you say starting with. So,
Okay. All right.
Well, didn't you say Danny DeVito got a sort of big step up? You know, he had been in...
Yeah, exactly. I'd say Danny.
Okay. Or Danny. Mr. DeVito to you.
How about Temple?
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Who got a big break?
Kate Capshaw?
I don't know. What had she done before this? I don't know much about the career of...
She hadn't done much, and then when she hooked up with Spielberg, she didn't do much afterwards and sort of focused on her family. I guess, Short Round got a big break, but didn't capitalise, so I've got an award for him later on.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, Kate Capshaw, just looking at her IMDb, hadn't been in much before Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, so...
All right, so Kate and Danny.
Wow.
I'd say Danny.
Okay.
The Before They Were Famous award or Blink and You'll Miss Them. So starting with romancing. Any tiny roles there? Holland Taylor, who played Gloria, is there, but she did a career before. But it's funny seeing her again. So she sort of falls between a few awards. Anyone in particular?
No.
Okay. How about
no one
Temple?
Really. No.
See, these films are set in different countries. We've got like 3 Americans dropped in a landscape with other nationalities. So it kind of makes sense logically that those supporting characters didn't get an opportunity afterwards.
Well, the other thing is that I know a little bit about movies, but unfortunately, I don't know a huge amount, say, about, Indian cinema, and if, Roshan Seth had gone on to or been in, was this his big break? I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're looking at it totally through the lens of Hollywood culture. And you're right, like how many times does, say, Hollywood actually hire an Indian or Chinese or Hong Kong actor, and they're huge in their own country, but they play a supporting role in Transformers or a Mission Impossible movie or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Amrish Puri, who played what's the character's name? Mola Ram. I think he was in quite a lot of stuff, wasn't he?
Yeah, I can't place it, but I think you're right. Okay, well, we've got to put our finger on a winner, so who do we finger?
I'm going to finger Mola Ram.
Okay, well done. All right, the Tommy Lee Jones Show Stealer Award, named after the iconic performance by Tommy Lee in The Fugitive. Who stole the show, Gabe, despite being in a small or poorly written role? Starting with The Stone.
Did anyone? Is there anyone here that you think?
I thought Danny DeVito stole the show. I thought he was. He did a lot. He did a lot with a little. This is where you see where his career goes, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, no one else in that film. Jump into Temple of Doom. No, not Kate Capshaw, not Short Round, not the Little Prince. Maybe at a pitch, the crocodiles at the end, but I'm really.
Wait. Are you saying the crocodiles at the end stole the show? Dude, going back to Mola Ram, who we just fingered, he's great. I love that guy in this.
Okay.
You know who's also awesome in this, actually, and particularly because it's a small or something role? Rick Young, who plays the bad guy in the Hong Kong sequence.
Ah, yes.
Once you've recognised his head, man, he turns up in heaps of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he's like one of those blokes who's got more than 100 credits on IMDb, and often in just small roles, like he'll just turn up as like, some Chinese gangster, one and done scene in something like, what did I see him in recently? American Gangster, but man, he rules. He's great.
Okay, well, name your guy.
Rick Young.
Rick it is. All right, Rick, we have an award waiting for you. Okay, moving on to the Mickey Rourke Award, named in honour of the guy who unfortunately squandered his chance to kick on with bigger roles. Gabe, who didn't make the most of their opportunities after appearing in either of these movies? I'd say Kate Capshaw in Temple, but for good reason. Mm-hmm. And also perhaps Short Round. How about you?
I think both of those are pretty good nominees.
I'd say Short Round. I feel like there was a missed opportunity, but maybe he was just too pigeonholed.
What about William Hayek, the writer of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, who after writing Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom went on to write nothing that I've ever heard of.
Ah, interesting.
A bunch of TV movies.
Yeah, okay. I'm keen to go with that one, unless you can convince me otherwise.
Do you want me to try? I mean, we could also say Gloria Katz, who also wrote Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, went on to write not a lot of much and just a similar amount of TV movies, presumably because she actually looks like she wrote them with William Hayek.
Okay, so the indie writers get the award. Okay, done. The winner Chicken Dinner Award. Who came out on top in each of these movies, either in front or behind the camera, starting with Romancing?
Well, look, I think both of these two movies, the directors went on to some amount of, critical and commercial success.
Yeah, okay. I think they're both. I mean, this basically gives the keys to the kingdom to Zemeckis to do Back to the Future, which is huge.
That's right, like you said, yeah.
I'd say it's a bigger deal for him than it is for Spielberg. So I'd give it to Zemeckis. Yeah.
Okay. Give it to Bob.
Done. All right. Best Dialogue Award. So what's your favourite quote, Gabe? Starting with De Stone. How about Jack Colton's line? What did you do? Wake up this morning and say, today I'm going to ruin a man's life. That feels very of the time.
Yeah. I mean, when you were watching it, did you think to yourself, wow, that's a line I'll never forget?
No. I'm hunting for answers for this question, but nothing.
It's not like, Scarface, that line that you always quote, your womb is so polluted. That's the line that sticks with you forever.
Yeah, that's for every Saturday morning.
You're the best time I've ever had. I've never been anyone's best time. It's a nice line of dialogue, but it's not like I'm walking around saying it.
I do like, there is a line that Jack Colton says, which is, now I ain't cheap, but I can be had. That kind of feels like a summary on his career after that.
Yeah, totally.
All right, jumping over to Indy.
I mean, chilled monkey brains. I know it's just a description of the thing, but goddamn, when they're like
Chilled monkey brain.
I always remembered that.
All right, what else? Given that this film lived with you for so long, you're probably in a better position to be able to comment on what was most memorable. With you, playing with the kids in the playground and like pretending to be Indy as you're swinging on the monkey bars.
I mean, there's a lot of great low-key dialogue. I like when Indy drinks the poison and then Willie's like, what's that? And the bad guy goes, antidote. And Indiana Jones says, the what? And he's like, the poison you just drank. But, you know, again, is it...
Good screenwriting, but not really a quip to repeat.
Yeah. Lots of short rounds lines I really like, but I'm afraid I'll do them rather roughly.
Can you do them?
We've been there. We've done that.
Okay, maybe Sam could insert.
Yeah, cut one in. Cut in a short round line or two here. Like this one. I love this one.
Hey, Dr. Jones, no time for love. We got company.
Very good, and I love this one.
Hey, lady, you call him Dr. Jones.
My professional name.
Nailed it. All right. Well, I guess we're looking at best dialogue goes to Temple by a smidge.
Yes, by a smidge.
Okay. The Nicolas Cage Chewing the Scenery Award, starting with romancing.
Well, I mean, Michael Douglas is doing a little bit of scenery showing.
Yeah, I think this is the beginning of his journey as we discussed. So I'd say he's chewing on the cud pretty hard. How about Temple?
Chewing the cud. That's what he called it. Temple. Who?
Kate Capshaw's
Oh, yeah.
doing probably as directed, but, you know, it's painfully, yeah.
She wins. It is nice that she wins an acting award for this role.
Okay. Sorry, Kate. We regret to inform you. Despite being a great actor, unfortunately, you might score this award. Okay. The Taking a Paycheck Award, which speaks for itself. I don't think anyone in romancing was slumming it for the cash, and same with Temple. How about you?
I mean, I guess Temple's a sequel, so, you know, probably people got paid to come back, but...
Well, you mentioned before that Harrison was looking a little bit sleepy. You know, this is the beginning of his hibernation for 20 years.
Well, he did this right after Blade Runner, I think, a movie where he looks very sleepy.
Yeah, okay. Maybe Harrison.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the Stephen Tobolowsky Award, a.k.a. Hates That Guy, named after the incredible actor who played Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day. Gabe, which actor triggered Hey, It's That Guy?
Okay, well, Romancing the Stone. When Holland Taylor turned up, I was like, hey, it's Holland Taylor. I remember her from some movies.
Who else? What's she been in again?
She was a regular in the TV series The Practice. Did you ever watch that? The Practice from the late 90s?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
She's in tons of stuff, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
101 episodes of Two and a Half Men.
There you go.
Okay.
I thought you would have, you know, as you run the 2.5 Men fan website, you know, you would have been all over that one. But
yeah, I know. It just escaped me. I'm sorry. I'm too focused on the leads. All right. How about Temple?
Well, I mean, I've mentioned before Rick Young.
Yep.
You know, is this an award that you could say, hey, Dan Aykroyd was in this movie?
Is he?
Yeah, he turns up in like a little cameo.
No.
He's in it for about 20 seconds.
No, that's more like a blinking he missed them. I think we missed the award.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah,
no. We missed it. Can we retrospectively hand it out?
No, it doesn't matter. Move on. We don't go
hang
backwards
on.
here. We're like
hang
sharks.
on. When La La Land won, on stage they did a quick little, you know, recalibration, and Moonlight won. Like, there's still time. If you want to give it to Dan Aykroyd, there's still a moment.
So, like, recount.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the era of the recount. No, I don't. Let's move along.
Okay.
Let's move on.
So we'll give it to Rick Young.
Yeah, okay, sure.
The Delroy Lindo Award for great actors who aren't cast often enough. So in romancing, again, it's tricky. I don't know, Gabe.
Look, I wish Danny DeVito was cast in everything. I love that guy so much.
Well, he has been in like 9, 10, 11 seasons of Sunny in Philadelphia.
Bro, 14 or 15 seasons.
Really? That many?
Yeah. I think they're shooting the 15th season now. And look, if I get an opportunity to, I'm gonna. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia absolutely rules. It's probably the greatest sitcom of all time. I know it's the longest running sitcom. Oh, dude, it is so good.
I never hear anyone talk about it. Like, I never hear a podcast review.
Well, okay. But I reckon here in Australia people don't talk about it because it's hard to see in Australia. It's not like it ever played on free-to-air TV. You know, it's not like it was on Channel 9 or Channel 7 or whatever. And
So why do you think he did it? Why do you think Danny DeVito just parked 15 years in TV?
because it's the best show. And Danny DeVito is a man of impeccable taste.
Okay. All right. I might actually commit to watching the first season. Dumb.
No, just start at season 2 because that's when Danny DeVito turns up. Season 1, okay, don't get me wrong, but season 2, start there. Oh boy, you're in for a treat,
Okay.
Ben. Again,
I can't wait.
as I said about Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, you watching that for the first time and me being jealous, I wish I could watch all of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia again for the first time.
I just finished Schitt's Creek after starting to watch it 3 times. Fourth time the charm. Quite enjoyed the whole thing.
Very good.
Took a while to get into. Okay. Who's our winner?
I've forgotten what the award is again. I always do this.
Doralindo? So Danny DeVito.
Okay.
Should be more. Okay. The Memphis Reigns Award, named after the absurdly named character played by Nick Cage from Gone in 60 Seconds. Who steals the cake for the most ludicrous name?
Or who steals the stone?
That's
horrible.
You, double guns, you. Look, they're all pretty boring. Jack Colton, Joan
Wait.
Warner.
No, wait. What? No, come on. I mean, look, they're not the best, but Joan Wilder, I mean...
Like she basically lets her hair out and becomes
Well, that's
a little
right,
bit...
Ben. You as a writer, I know you've always liked the idea of if you've got a character who's a tough guy, you call him like Fred Strong Guy.
And if he's a writer, I call him like Neville Quill.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. So Joan Wilder, I thought that would be right up your alley.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's a little bit on the nose, but okay.
Okay.
How about Temple?
Well, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, okay. I think you're right. Yes. Short Round?
That seems like it's probably his nickname. I'm not sure if his first name is actually Short and his surname
Okay.
is Round, but
How about Willie Scott? Interesting to go for the gender non-specific name.
Willie,
Yeah. What's that
Willie.
about?
I don't know.
I'm gonna put her down myself, actually.
Okay, well,
All right.
I'm going to vote for Indiana Jones.
All right. Dead Rubber. We're drawn.
It's the dog's name.
Okay. The Die Hard Award, named after the influence of Die Hard in inspiring a subgenre. So imitation is the ultimate flattery. Did either of these movies leave a legacy by inspiring a crop of clones, starting with romancing?
I mean, neither of these movies invented the swashbuckling genre, did they?
If anything, I think they were basically like a flashback.
Yeah, I mean, I think wasn't Indiana Jones conceived by Lucas as a sort of almost tribute to those serials he liked as a kid?
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't think I think they basically were a reinvention of the old, and I don't think they've actually been the inspiration for the new.
Well, but what about the sort of sequelizing franchise thing, which is very common now. You want every movie to be part of some sort of
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
sequel franchise shared universe thing.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yep. I mean, the fact that they put Indy in the name basically said this is our lead character and he will be what was Rocky or Rambo. Yep, I agree. I'd say they were part of that kind of 80s era, which was like, let's cash in the blockbuster and this one lead character will be the thread of different stories. All right. It's the time of the podcast for the Milking the Speed Cow Dry Award, named after the infamous Spequel. Spequel? What's a Spequel? It's like a sequel.
It's a spoken word sequel. It's a radio play sequel.
The sequel, Speed 2, which took to high stakes. Can you actually finish this sentence, Gabe, after almost 50 episodes?
It took the high stakes story of a man on a bus that can't go below 50 miles per hour and transported it to a story of a different man with a sadder face stuck on a boat with Willem Dafoe, which boat goes slow.
So imagine this. Let's say there's an opportunity to make a sequel to Romancing the Stone or Temple of Doom. Now, they're both very similar in their premise. They're both about a swashbuckling adventurer and a damsel out of her depth who find themselves in a love-hate relationship as they search for a valuable stone. So, with that in common, which film do we make a sequel to? And what's our pitch to make it to a studio executive?
Well, do we ignore
Go.
the fact that both of these movies have had sequels made to them?
Yeah. I sort of feel like you'd almost take this and make it okay, how's this? A reboot.
So, I mean,
A female version like Ghostbusters.
well, I think to be fair and to take this thing a little bit seriously, as is my way, I'm sick of being like the jokey jokester. You could reboot Romancing the Stone, and I don't think people would particularly mind. I don't think it's held up and heralded as some kind of unimpeachable classic. I mean, I'd be a little careful rebooting Indiana Jones with a new actor as Indy, but I mean, don't you think we could do a reboot of Romancing the Stone where perhaps we could make some of those choices a little sharper?
Well, record scratch Sam, insert here, but they did actually have the plan, much like Mission Impossible, to then hand over to Jeremy, what's his name?
Renner.
That was the plan which they abandoned. There was the plan to hand it to the character of Mutt.
Mutt.
In Kingdom. Mutt. Okay. And they didn't. But
That's a lie. They were never going to go like, well, Indiana Jones 5 is about Shia LaBeouf. I love Shia LaBeouf so much. But that was all horse shit.
Well, okay. Look, if you did a okay, there's two different versions. You do a chronological sequel where you follow the kids of these characters, which means you don't have to recast them, or you reboot it, which is kind of like the starting sequence of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I sort of feel that film is almost a template to how do you do this, where you've got River Phoenix playing Harrison Ford's character. So you're going for like a prequel, or you're going for the son of the main lead.
But
what are your thoughts? Or do you keep the character's name and just basically just recast?
no, I reckon you could do a really fun movie that takes the premise of Romancing the Stone, a mousy romance novelist who's sort of always dreamed of the type of adventure that she's written in books, actually getting swept up in that type of adventure and, take that premise.
They've done that. That's 50 Shades of Grey. Basically, someone watched the Twilight series and just fantasized a sexy version of that, like literally in real life, and then wrote 50 Shades of Grey.
Wait, there's no vampires in 50 Shades of Grey.
Haven't you heard this story? Basically,
Yeah, I think I heard
yeah.
it somewhere.
Okay, so you could that's basically where this goes. Is that someone basically says, "What's the 2020s version of Romancing the Stone?"
Oh, right. So she's a dissatisfied blogger who can only tweet her dreams and is whisked off on an adventure.
And finds herself without social media and therefore has to adjust to not being connected or, contactable.
And who would be the least likely person with whom she would fall in love? Who's an offline rascal?
It's so obvious. I mean, it's just going to be someone who's the antithesis, which basically someone who isn't an Instagram influencer, who basically teaches her the eat, pray, love version of living, where she essentially, parks social media, embraces her inner core and grounds herself through yoga. And after a few sort of like smoothies with spirulina, discovers that, you know what? There's more than social media.
Yeah, right. But how has she always dreamed of adventure?
I suppose it'd be if you're a social media influencer or a blogger who portrayed a life where they pretended. So rather than writing a book where she lives vicariously through the protagonist.
Yeah, I mean, no one reads or writes books now, so.
So what's pretty ubiquitous around the world is people who portray the best version of their life, like #blessed, or they portray a fake version of their life. So there was actually a documentary about this particular woman with two or three kids who portrayed the world that her life was amazing and in reality was in a terrible relationship and was eventually murdered by her husband and life wasn't so great after all. But people put forward their best foot and either they lie blatantly or they just show shades of the good stuff. Let's say she's a social media influencer, if we stick with her gender, living in somewhere like New York where she's living her best life and she's portraying everything, but it's artificial and she's tiring. She's suffering from influencer burnout. So she takes a holiday where she thinks she's being sponsored by the hotel to go to, say,
Okay.
Thailand or Indonesia. And she rocks up and turns out that the hotel won't honour the sponsorship. So she's got nowhere to stay. She doesn't have any cash. And she basically has to end up being a dishwasher at a youth hostel, a backpackers hotel in Indonesia.
Okay, I like it because then maybe we could have where she meets a dashing martial artist played by Iku Uwai.
That's awesome. That's great. Or maybe, for example, she has to basically earn a ticket back because she only had enough for a one-way ticket. She has to earn a ticket back home in that time where the last thing she wants to do is be part of the present. She meets the guy who's the windsurfing instructor or something and discovers that actually maybe if you take yourself offline and enjoy the present elsewhere and don't share or tweet about it, you'll be sincerely happy. Which is basically a version of Eat, Pray, Love, really.
But
it's hardly a swashbuckling adventure.
Well, I mean, it was when I had the bloke from The Raid in it.
That's true. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, before it became about windsurfing.
Okay, how about this? What if you had someone like Laura Dern's character from Jurassic Park who's already has a career as a researcher or a scientist of some sort, and they go somewhere as part of their PhD fellowship, and I was going to say shenanigans ensue.
That's your pitch. Laura Dern's character from Jurassic Park goes somewhere, not with dinosaurs, by the way, and there's shenanigans. What type of shenanigans? Windsurfing shenanigans. To be fair, Ben, they haven't made an awesome windsurfing movie. I mean, they've made rollerblading movies and skateboarding movies, and they probably made some sort of movie about it, like scooters. Shit, they had minecart racing movies in Indiana Jones' Temple of Doom, but where's the classic windsurfing movie? That's what we're asking.
You want the Karate Kid version where at the very end, after so many attempts of trying, or the Dirty Dancing version where he holds her in the air, the guy or the girl on the windsurfer does a 360 and lands it. And the audience just erupts.
Yep, that's great.
All right, I hand the baton to you. Walk me from the point where she meets the martial artist.
Well, I mean, this influencer, she's dissatisfied leading her fake life. She goes on this sponsored trip to Indonesia. She realizes she's been scammed or something. She suddenly finds herself stuck, having to wash dishes or whatever. And that's where she gets embroiled in some sort of hostage situation.
And what is the scam or the situation?
I don't know. But look, here's what it is. It is Eat, Pray, Love meets The Raid. Bang!
And what's that title?
Eat, Pray, Raid. I mean, we're rebooting. We can call it Romancing the Stone. That's a good title.
Is there a pun? Romancing the leg kick.
Like what rhymes with Indonesia?
Romancing the sweep. The leg sweep.
What?
Romancing the leg sweep.
Let's not do that. That is, Ben's views represent only his own and not his employer or this podcast.
No, Romancing the Bone. She's a archaeologist who goes in search of dinosaur bones.
Yeah, we're definitely getting Michael Douglas back for that.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you make a sequel to Romancing the Stone. All right, Gabe, that brings us to the end of the episode. A big thanks to our awesome sound editor, the amazing Sam Haywood, for making this episode and every episode sound so incredible. You can find Sam at Showtown Sound on Insta. Gabe, where can listeners just enjoy your dulcet tones and musings this week?
On Twitter at Gabe Dowrick. I'd also like to say, Ben, this is another episode where I've confidently tried to pronounce a bunch of people's names and probably mangled them. So if I did that to anyone, I say I'm sorry.
Gabe, it takes two to tango, and we tangoed in cultural offence unintentionally.
Hey, look.
I hear you.
At least we
I
didn't
feel
do those
you.
short round
I see you.
impersonations.
Yeah, that's true.
We dodged a bullet there.
So where are you? You're on the twits?
To Twitter, at Gabe Dowrick.
All right, done. And I'm at Ben Phelps on Twitter and Insta and youtube.com/Ben Phelps. You can find this pod and all the rest on the Apple, the Spot, and the Googs. Thanks for listening, folks. And if you enjoyed the show, share it with your buds. Take care and stay tuned for another Twin Movies episode and Twin Movies battle very soon. See you, Gabe.
Goodbye.